Hello, my friends, and welcome to Eternal Life Plan. I am excited to be with you tonight, and we have a lot to cover. I'm going to ask you some questions that I want you to put in the comment section as we go through the podcast tonight, because I would love to know your opinion about what's happening in the Catholic Church, and specifically what we're going to be talking about, which was the Eucharistic Congress that took place in Indianapolis in July. There was a lot of controversy around it. David L. Gray and Father Emberato did a video on it. I'm a little late coming to the party, but I had some questions that I wanted the Archdiocese of Indianapolis to answer for me, which I was able to get. I spoke to 3 people that I personally know. One was on the planning committee of the Eucharistic Congress, one was a volunteer, and one went as a participant. And as you may know, or maybe you don't know, there were 2 Eucharistic Congresses going on. The official one, put on by the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, which Archbishop Thompson did a beautiful job. We had over 50,000 people attend. And then there was a competing Eucharistic Congress, which they labeled it as a traditional Eucharistic Revival Congress, which confused a lot of people. And here's why. So their Congress, this traditional Eucharistic Revival Congress, was not on the official Eucharistic Congress agenda. And the traditional Eucharistic Revival Congress was put on by none other than John Henry Weston of Lightside News and Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace, which is located in Indianapolis. That is the nonprofit that I was involved in 2021. That, when I spoke the truth, it was not liked by the founder, and she got rid of me and 2 others that served on that board. She went against the board's bylaws. She even went against the board's bylaws to fire all 3 of us. So right there, this is a reason not to trust Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace. And notice in their title, Unity and Peace. When you are having a competing Congress with the official Eucharistic Congress, do you think that's causing unity? Do you think that's causing peace? No, it's not. If you attended either one of these, would you let me know in the comments below? I would like to know. So let me get to a screen share that I want to show you, okay? Just give me a minute. So here is LifeSite News, and it says, join LifeSite News for traditional Latin Mass right across from the National Eucharistic Congress. That's right, they were right across from the official Eucharistic Congress. And it says, LifeSite News Traditional Eucharistic Revival in Indianapolis next month, located across from the National Eucharistic Congress, gives Catholics attending the Congress an opportunity to worship the Mass of the Ages. Well, everyone, my friends, did you know that the Eucharistic Congress, the official one, celebrated both the ordinary Mass, the Novus Ordo Mass, the Latin Mass, and the Byzantine Mass? All 3 of those Masses were celebrated at the Eucharistic Congress. And John Henry Weston and Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace, who was founded by Vicky Yamasaki, They knew that. They absolutely knew that. So they were misleading Catholics. Why is this important? You shall know them by the fruits they bear. They're misleading Catholics. So here we have Father Altman that was there in person. John Henry Weston was there in person. So was everyone with Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace was there in person at Victory Fields, which is our semi-pro baseball team's field, the Indians that play at Victory Field. And it says U.S. Catholics throughout the United States have rejoiced in Eucharistic processions conducted by dioceses throughout the country. These processions launch an accompanying Eucharistic pilgrimage traveling from 4 directions, eventually converging at the National Eucharistic Congress this July in Indianapolis. Featured our nationally known speakers, Adoration Mass. What a wonderful effort. Yeah. So they go on to say, the traditional Latin Mass community wants to join in, promoting reverence for the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. We're going to be in Indianapolis and invite you to join us. As if saying that they were not going to say the traditional Latin Mass. It was said at Holy Rosary, which is a parish not far from the Congress that people attended on Friday. But yet John Henry Weston and Vicky Yamasaki put together this whole ruse to lure people over to what they were doing. It's really deceptive. LifeSite News knows many can't afford to attend the National Eucharistic Congress, so we're offering a completely free event on July 19th from 9:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. That includes a traditional Latin Mass, inspiring speakers, and a free lunch. Now, here's another lie. This is not meant to compete with the Congress, but to supplement it. Okay, if it was not meant to compete with the Congress, then why didn't you have it after the Congress was finished or before the Congress started? This is really upsetting to me. And I'll go down to where it says, our speakers, John Henry Weston, Father James Altman, and Father Jeffrey Fashing, and a special guest. They don't tell you who the special guest is when you sign up. You didn't know who the special guest was until you went to the event that was competing. Absolutely, it was competing with the Eucharistic Congress. And here is the guest. Tell me if you knew about this in the comments. The guest was Archbishop Vigano. I'm not going to play this whole video. It's on LifeSite News. But he was the special guest that, as they say, Archbishop Vigano gives message calling out enemies of the church. Okay, this is going to ruffle feathers, but they are the enemies of the church. Archbishop Vigano is no longer a Catholic. He has been excommunicated, and they invited him as a special guest to appear on video to all of those that were attending. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. I know people are going to defend Archbishop Vigano. Yes, he absolutely needs our prayers. But remember, everyone, he knew he was going to be excommunicated. He knew that. When he didn't show up for that hearing, I'm sorry, I did not realize that did not come up. Let me do this again. All right. There's the one of Vigano. Sorry about that. He knew that when he did not show up for that hearing, that he was going to be excommunicated. He knew that. So he made that choice. And everyone blames it on the Pope. Everyone blames it on the committee that was formed for this hearing. Now, I'm going to say this again. I have never been a fan of Pope Francis. I was one of those people that heavily criticized Pope Francis. And I'll get into that journey at the end. But this is Carlo Vigano.
And you accompanied this divine king along the streets to pay him public honors, bearing witness to your faith and your love for the Lord.
Okay. The people that attended did not know Archbishop Vigano was going to be at this conference he was going to appear on video at their traditional Eucharistic Congress. Keep in mind, the traditional Latin Mass was said at the official Eucharistic Congress. And let me go to the next tab. And this tab is Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace that they were displaying on their website. Restore Tradition, the Pathway to Eucharistic Belief. Father Altman, Doug Barry, Father Fashing, and John Henry Weston. Well, thank the dear Lord in heaven, Doug Barry withdrew from speaking at the Congress. At their Congress. I am so happy he decided not to join this. I'm just going to say it. It's schism. It is. It's schism. And free event, free lunch. Well, from what I heard, that they ran out of lunch, so everybody didn't get a lunch. And then according to another page on their website, they claimed that they had almost 1,000 people there. Well, I had an eyewitness that told me that no, they did not. They only had a couple hundred people at their event. So that's another thing that they're being deceptive about. All right. You shall know them by the fruits they bear. There you go. This is a nonprofit you should steer clear of. Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace. You should steer clear of them. All right. Now, my sources told me that the person on the planning committee told me when I asked, was this event at Victory Field that was held by LifeSite News and Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace, was that approved by Archbishop Thompson? And the answer was no. They viewed it as a competing event. And they were disappointed that this happened. All right. That's what I was told by this person on the planning committee. The other person that was a volunteer also told me that that was not approved by the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. All right. So that's two people that told me that. And the person that I know that went told me that one of her good friends was going over to participate in this traditional Eucharistic revival held by LifeSite News and Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace. They call themselves CUP. So I'm just going to refer to them as CUP moving forward. She was going to go over there to participate, and then she changed her mind. I'm glad she did. And I'm also glad that Doug Barry changed his mind as well and did not participate as a speaker. So I know people are going to tell me I shouldn't be criticizing. I'm not criticizing. I'm defending the true Catholic Church. I'm defending the true Catholic Church. Now, to take this one step further, look who else is being interviewed, or who else interviewed Archbishop Vigano just recently. Yep, Taylor Marshall. Now, I didn't have a chance to watch all of it, but the part that I did watch is he did not interview Archbishop Vigano through video because there was some sketchy explanation that Archbishop Vigano declined because he could not speak clearly in English. Well, I heard him just fine in that video with LifeSite News. Did you not hear him clearly in that too? And it would have been easy to put captions in there so that people could follow if they couldn't understand him. So instead, what Taylor Marshall did is send him a list of, I guess, 12 questions that Archbishop Vigano responded to, and then Taylor Marshall is reading them in his video. So, one of the questions that Taylor Marshall is asking is, they're still pushing this whole thing that the Pope is not a valid Pope. So if the Pope is not a valid Pope, he's asking Vigano, are the cardinals that the Pope appointed, are they valid cardinals? I mean, good grief, everyone. They're sounding like Pharisees. They're sounding like Pharisees. Whether you love Pope Francis, whether you hate Pope Francis, I hope you don't hate him. Here's the thing. He's the Pope. There's nothing we can do about it. And these conversations, ongoing conversations, knowing Archbishop Vigano has been excommunicated in the church, and Taylor Marshall is even going so far to ask the question, is the excommunication valid? Oh my gosh. This is crazy time. This is crazy time. I'm baffled by all of this, really. So as I said earlier, I've done a 180-degree turn. I went from giving the Pope a chance when he was elected to questioning every little thing he said and finding fault in everything he said for a number of years. A number of years. All right. And as I said on another podcast, I've been to traditional Latin masses. Some of them were beautiful, and some, the priest rushed through them so fast, people are looking around going, where's the fire? So yeah, this false, or let me say it this way, this romance of the traditional Latin Mass, that every single traditional Latin Mass is beautiful and sacred and held with beautiful rituals. And the ordinary Mass, the Novus Ordo Mass, is just filled with rainbows and performance and disrespectful. Do you see the entire chasm that produces. So there have been disrespectful Latin masses that I've attended that they rushed through them like there was a fire. And then there have been beautiful ordinary masses, the Novus Ordo masses I've attended that were sacred and beautiful. Have I been to ordinary masses where it wasn't? Yes. What I'm saying is it occurs on both sides. You just can't paint it in a broad brush and say one is bad and one is good. I have gotten heartbreaking emails from viewers who have asked my advice about would they be in sin if they attended a Novus Ordo Mass? And I am like, no, you would not be in sin. It's an approved Mass. The traditional Lenten Mass is an approved Mass. Okay? And they get themselves in knots because there's these ragtrads out there saying that if you go to a Novus Ordo Mass, you're committing sin. And like this few people that wrote me told me that the closest Latin Mass is 2.5 hours away. And should they be driving that? I don't know about anyone else. I cannot drive 2 hours to a Latin Mass, go to Latin Mass, and drive 2 hours back in a day. And do that every single Sunday? No. There's one Latin Mass in Indianapolis. There's another Latin Mass 2 hours away in Brazil, Indiana. So, the choices are few. So when people are out there saying you only have to go to Latin Mass or you're sinning, that is wrong. The church does not treat that. Right? It's heartbreaking to me that people are just twisting themselves in a pretzel trying to get to a traditional Latin Mass. I grew up in a traditional Latin Mass. So I was born in the 50s. So in the 60s, when I was in grade school, we went to Latin Mass. And, then the change started happening as a result of Vatican II. And so, we started attending the ordinary Mass. Now, my dad wasn't happy about it, but he didn't quit going to church because of it. He didn't quit believing in God because of it. He didn't question his faith because of it. He didn't bash the Pope because of it. And like I told you all, I can't remember when, God said to me, my son is never going to leave his bride, the church. Vigano left the church. LifeSite News left the church. Vicky Yamasaki and Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace, they left the church. If they're supporting Vigano, they have left the church. The man is excommunicated. Right or wrong, he's been excommunicated. And he can make it right and come back. But pride is preventing him from doing that. Yes, I supported Vigano. I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid of bashing the Pope. But God just kind of jerked me into the truth, and that is the Catholic Church in Rome. That Catholic Church, not Vigano's version of it, is the true Catholic Church, and that's where we must remain. And it makes me wonder, they always talk about, the rat treads always talk about they're the remnant. I don't think they are. I think the remnant are the Catholics that will never abandon the true Catholic Church. That's who I think the remnant is. Okay. Now I want to see your comments. I would love to hear what you have to say. Okay. Hi, Drew. Looking forward to this. Thank you. Alan, I haven't met any traditional Lenten people that I will follow. Yeah, I used to follow Taylor Marshall. And I'll tell you, and I've said this before, I stopped following Taylor Marshall when he admitted that he staged that whole thing in Rome over the Pachamama, throwing the Pachamama into the river. You know, I think it was about 9 months, a year later, he admitted he's the one that staged that whole thing and paid for it. And at the time it happened, he acted like this was breaking news, that this video was just sent to him. Again, deceitful. So I stopped following him because of that. Okay, Alan says they prove that there are two kinds of people. They prove to me that there are two kinds of people, sedevacantist and those who want to be. Good point, Alan. Amanda says, God bless Vigano. And then she gave me a thumbs down. Well, Amanda, you're entitled to your position, but to your opinion, but you're putting your soul in danger, because Vigano is leading you away from the Catholic Church, not towards it. That's your choice. That's your choice. As my channel says, eternal life is forever. Got a plan? I'm sticking with the one true church, and that is Rome. I stand with Vigano, Tisha said. And then she says, why must you shred Catholics like this? Let's please get along. Let it go. I'm defending the church. And we need to know who the wolf in sheep clothing are, Tisha. That's why. It's not shredding people to tell the truth, is it? Look at what the rad trads have been saying about those of us that don't agree with them. They're the worst when it comes to shredding people. I'm warning you. I'm giving you some clues of who you need to really discern before you give your money, time, and devotion to. Ellen, I used to watch LifeSite News for several years, but they are divisive and causing schism within the church. I agree with you 100%, Ellen. Hi, Kayla. Glad you could join us. Always good to see you. That's horrible. Yes, it is. Matthew. Hey, Christine. Great to see you again. Great to see you too, Matthew. Thank you. Ellen, I discourage Catholics from watching LifeSite News. I do too. I absolutely do too. Matthew says LifeSite News also, through John Henry Weston, promotes the false apparition of Garabandal. That's a problem. Now, I don't know much about that one, Matthew. I do know that in this Taylor Marshall interview that he's doing, he is, one of the things that he's promoting is Archbishop Vigano exposes fake third secret. Good grief. Matthew says, unfortunately, for some Catholics, the Latin Mass is like a cult thing. I agree. It is a cult thing, and Jesus never meant it to be that way. For many years, I also used to watch Taylor Marshall, but he is leading people away from the church. Yes, he is. Tisha says, schism under every rock, and you have so much anger and name calling. Good luck listening to this judgmental rant. Hope you all see what is really happening. Well, what is really happening, Tisha? I mean, you tell me. You said it. You tell me what is really happening. All right. You think that it's right that Lifeside News and Cup had a dual Congress at the same time the official Eucharistic Congress was going on, and they celebrated Latin Mass at the official Eucharistic Congress? What was their, here's the question that ask yourself. What was their intent? Well, it's obvious. It was division. They're creating division. Why in the world would they have a dual Congress at the very same time of the official one? That's insane. If the only reason can be division. Kayla says, hi, Christine. I agree with you. A person can go to a Reverend Novus Ordo Mass. Going to that Mass is not evil, not against the Catholic Church. Absolutely right. Oh, yes, I forgot you were in the Third Order. I'm going to say it wrong, displaced Carmelite. It's not recommended that I watch Dr. Taylor Marshall. Hooray. Hooray, Kayla. Susie Horn says, no, you really do need to do more research about what? Suzanne, would you tell me what is it that I need to do more research about? I read from both of their websites. What do I need to do more research about? Let me know. Hey, Lisa, good to see you. Okay, Eagle of the Sacred Heart. LifeSite promotes false apparitions and false prophets for profit. Here we go again, right? Kayla, nor to watch LifeSite News because they promote heresy and against the church. Yes, they do. Ronnie, so the guy from Austria that threw Pachamama in the river was in cahoots with Taylor Marshall? Yes. You didn't know that, Ronnie? The whole thing was staged. Taylor Marshall paid him to come and do that, to collect those Pachamamas and throw them in the river. The video is still out there about Taylor Marshall, and I want to say his name is it Alexander Shregla? I think that's his name. They talk about it and was laughing about it, admitted that they planned the whole thing and staged it like Taylor Marshall got this breaking news that this person went into the church and took the Pachamamas and threw them in the river. They planned the whole thing. That's exactly right, Ronnie. Lou says, yes, Ronnie. Yep, Lou knows. Drew says, sadly, I think you're right. Yep. So everyone, that's my take on the newest division that is happening, in the Catholic Church. Yorkie says, maybe I missed it, but how did Taylor Marshall ever came to be? Who funded him from the beginning? Yorkie, I have no idea. I can tell you that years ago, I tried to listen to Taylor Marshall on his podcast. This is before he started his YouTube channel, and he was selling his courses. And to listen to him on audio, he's very dry. It's very hard to listen to him. He just couldn't capture my attention. But when he came out with his YouTube channel, um, I drank the Kool-Aid and started watching him and liked him. And then when he staged that whole thing, and I realized, and that's the other thing. When God said to me, my son will never leave his church, his bride, I pulled back and I started thinking about who was misleading me. Who were the people that were influencing me to bash the Pope, to side with Vigano, who made me feel guilty for going to Novus Ordo Mass. I started thinking back on who were the people that were influencing me. And it was all the rad trads. Taylor Marshall, Michael Matt, Father Altman. Oh my gosh, I was a huge Father Altman fan until he said that the Pope would be better dead at the bottom of the sea. So many people do not believe that Father Altman said that. It's on his video, YouTube video. It's one of the videos on there. He did say that. And when Father Altman said that, that went just a step too far for me. And, he greatly influenced me against the Pope. So, do I love the Pope? I wish I could say I do, but I don't. But I'm not letting all of this affect me anymore. I'm keeping my eyes on Jesus and on the one true church. They can say all day long that, the traditional Latin Mass is the true Mass. Well, the Novus Ordo Mass was approved. It's an approved Mass. Okay. I joined late. What did Doug Barry do? Doug Barry was supposed to, let me show you. Doug Barry was supposed to speak at a traditional Eucharistic revival, which was competing with the official Eucharistic revival. And he withdrew. He ended up not speaking. So that's what that was all about. I was glad that he did not speak and he withdrew. So I hope that answered your question about that. And if you did join late, after this broadcast is over, you can watch the replay on my YouTube channel. So that'll be available right away for you. Okay, and Lynn says Opus Dei is involved with many of these media and print publications. Follow the money. And Awesome Rusty says, is Awesome Rusty a cat or is that you? Are you Rusty? Padre Pio received a special dispensation from his bishop not to perform the Novus Ordo because he felt it was intrinsically evil. Look it up. All right. But that was Padre Pio. That doesn't mean that it's intrinsically evil, period. That was bad. I think, didn't Padre Pio die back in 1968? And the Novus Ordo really did not come about until the 70s. Here in my area, it did not come about until the 70s. Drew Black said, Doug, step away from the conference, supplanting the Eucharistic event. Eileen says Taylor Marshall lost credibility when he created the Pachamama fiasco. That's when I stopped listening to him. Me too. That's absolutely right. Deb says Padre Pio talked his sister, who was a nun, stay in the Novus Ordo Mass. They had a big argument about it. Yeah, I don't know much about that whole subject. Karen, hey Karen, good to see you on. I hadn't heard of Taylor Marshall Life Site News until about a year ago. Watched a few videos from these Catholic sites and got grifter vibes. There you go. Yeah, I don't know if they're as bad as Church Militant, but they're grifters. Okay, awesome. Rusty says Novus Ordo is in direct conflict of the Council of Trent and the seventh session, in the seventh session 13. But Rusty, are you aware that it has been approved? Right? It has been approved. Christine, how do you feel about Raymond Arroyo and the world over? Well, I think they're part of the problem too. And I think Father Gerald Murray coming on and, the way that they talk about the Pope, I have no problem with coming on board and talking about their opinions about something controversial that the Pope has said, but they never allow any clarification either. So I stopped watching EWTN. I stopped watching The World Over. I stopped watching all of that. I don't know if that answered your question, Matthew. Okay, Karen says, unfortunately, the internet and social media makes it easy for those voices to be amplified. Absolutely. It's absolutely true. And keep in mind, Taylor Marshall having on Archbishop Vigano, he's promoting an excommunicated bishop. It's above my pay grade. I don't know if maybe you all know and you can tell me in the comments. With Archbishop Vigano being excommunicated, is he stripped from being an archbishop? I mean, is it because even when priests get laicized, they're not excommunicated. So I'm a little unsure about that. Do you all know? Drew Black says, Christine, please speak to the fact that these dissenters are good people. They are using the liturgy as a cudgel to commend. Yes, I agree with that. They are good people. They believe in what they're saying, but they're also misleading people. That's what they're doing. They're misleading people, good people misleading. Hey, I was there. Now, whether I'm a good person or not, God's got to tell me because sometimes I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I try to be good. But yes, good people make bad decisions every single day. If the church splits, who gets Rome, progressives or conservatives? I have no idea, Rick. I'm not concerning myself with that. All I know is, let's just say there is a split. God told me not to abandon the church because Jesus would never abandon the church. All right. So I'm going to obey God. And Rick, being gay is still a sin. Being gay is still a sin. Let me rephrase that. Having a gay active lifestyle is still a sin. You can be gay, you can go and confess your sins, but you cannot continue to live in that lifestyle. Just like me being a heterosexual single female, I have to stay chaste. That's what God commands us to do. And that's what I strive for. Okay. Lynn says, watch the Deep Dive Project. Tells all about who and what is involved with Opus Dei. Okay. I've not seen that one, so I will look that up. Thanks, Lynn. Okay. The Eagle of the Sacred Heart says, unless he's been explicitly laicized, he is still an archbishop. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. I wasn't sure. Even if he's excommunicated, apparently he can still be a bishop. I have to assume he can't do his, because he's no longer a Catholic, he can't say Mass, he can't hear confessions. I would think not. Matthew, I don't think Raymond Aurora is as bad as Taylor Marshall, but that's me. Yeah, I agree with that. He's more moderate. Yeah, I agree with that, Matthew. Someone had said, DXV said Taylor Marshall also promotes a non-priest, Calvin Robinson, as a Catholic priest. Matthew says, I do not understand the story with Calvin Robinson. Was he actually ordained or allowed to transfer his priesthood like the Anglican priest can? Yeah, that I don't know about. And DX, if you know, if you could let Matthew know, that would be appreciated. Eagle of the Sacred Heart says he probably does not have faculties. They just don't need to tell us because he has had no post for years. That's a good point, Eagle of the Sacred Heart. That's a really good point. Yeah, that sounds correct. Mark says, do we need more people to step up and debate these schematics elitists who make beautiful tradition into an idol? John Salza did a good job with his book, The True or False Pope. Well, I think it's an important discussion because so many people are being lured away. I mean, I was one of them. I was one of them until God set me straight. So, this is what I plan to do, and then I'll close it out. Okay. I'm just not going to worry about what the Pope says anymore. I'm not going to debate it, argue it, defend it. None of that. I mean, honestly, everyone, is there anything we can do about it? No. No. Can it affect our lives if we let it? Yes, it can. So I'm going to Mass. I'm going to confession. I'm going to, do my daily devotional prayers. And whatever the Pope has to say that everybody wants to tear apart and make it into some controversy, I'm just not paying attention to it anymore. I know someone who's been on this podcast that has absolutely made himself physically sick because he despises the Pope that much. He will not call him the Pope, he calls him Bergoglio. He has made himself physically sick over bashing the Pope. That's not from God. That's not from God. And they have this sense that they're being like martyrs about it. Absolutely, they feel like they're being martyrs about it. But, the truth of the matter is, he is our Pope. We can't do anything about it. Why listen to all of this noise? It distracts us and it takes our eye off of Jesus. And as bad as the world is these days, we need to absolutely embed ourselves into Jesus and forget all this other stuff that's going on. But I had a lot of questions that came to me about what happened at the Eucharistic Congress. And so I wanted to bring that to you. All right. In my opinion, LifeSite News and CUP was very deceptive by saying they're for unity, saying that they're for revival, but they had to hold this at the very same time that the official Eucharistic Congress was going on. There's only one intention behind that. And they can say all the fluff they want about, they were going to have a traditional Latin Mass. Holy Rosary had one. As I said in the beginning, the Eucharistic Congress held a Byzantine Mass, a traditional Latin Mass, and an ordinary Mass. People got to experience all three. So there was no need for Vicky Yamasaki and John Weston Henry to do this. And then to have Vigano as their surprise guest, an excommunicated bishop as their surprise guest. He's a Protestant, folks. He's a Protestant. All right. That's all I have for you tonight. Next, I think it's Monday night, I am doing a live on these dual prophecies that are going on. And I'll give you my opinion on those as well. But don't take your eyes off of Jesus. Because remember, and I want to show this to you again. And this is the promise which he made us. Life everlasting. Life everlasting. Eternal life is forever. Got a plan? I hope it's Jesus. And be sure and keep Archbishop Vigano and all these rad trads in your prayers because they need our prayers. All right? God bless you all. Thank you for joining me and hanging in there with me while I had that illness, and I'm doing better. And I thank you for your prayers and your comments. And I'll see you all on Monday. Bye-bye.